Welcome to Using the Statistical Intervals. We begin from the home screen by clicking on the button that says Statistical Intervals. This brings us to the Statistical Intervals main menu. You'll notice that we have the one samples and two sample intervals. Let's begin with the one sample Z interval. It's probably the most common. When you're building a one sample confidence interval with a normal distribution, you'll need to know these things: the standard deviation, the mean, the sample size, and the confidence level desired. So let's say we want to build the 95% confidence interval. Our standard deviation is 2, the mean 44, and the sample size 31. So we're trying to build the 95%, so that would be 0.95. We click calculate, and I can see that the point estimate, of course, is that value in the center, that is 44. The lower estimate for the interval would be 43.296, and the upper estimate of the interval would be 44.704. Now, to see a graph, you simply click on graph, and you can see here are the edges of my interval, 43.296 up to 44.704, as is indicated up here, the confidence interval. The point estimate, as I mentioned, is simply the number in the exact middle, and we're doing the one sample Z interval. So let's see how the one sample proportion interval differs. I click on single proportion interval. I need the number of successes. Let's say we ran a survey. 230 people agreed with us out of the 500 people we surveyed. We want a 95% confidence interval, so again we enter 0.95. We click calculate, and I can see that the point estimate, p hat, is 0.46. The lower bound for the estimate is 0.4163. The upper bound for the estimate is 0.5037. Again, to see a graph, I click on graph, and I see that the interval runs from 0.4163 to 0.5037, with the point estimate, p hat, being exactly in the middle, that is 0.46. Now, I didn't mention on the last one, but there is help provided for all of these intervals. I provide you the formula as well as a verbal description of using the formula or the interval itself. Let's run one more. Let's run a two sample T interval. This time I'll have two samples, so I'll have a mean from the first sample, a deviation from the first sample, and a size from the first sample. I'll have those same parameters from the second sample, and of course a confidence interval. So let's say the mean from the first sample was 22, the deviation 2, the sample size 12. The mean from the second sample was 21, the deviation 2, and the sample size 11. And let's run a 90% confidence interval. I click calculate, and I see that the point estimate of the difference, that would be mean 1 minus mean 2, 22 minus 21, that point estimate is 1. However, the interval estimate is what I'm interested in, and I see that the lower bound would be negative 0.4368, the upper bound 2.4367. I can click graph, and I see that the interval runs from negative 0.4368 to positive 2.4367. The point estimate, of course, is the exact middle of that interval. It is 1. And as I mentioned, from this screen you can access the help. And in the help, you'll notice that I provide the formula. Here it is. And a verbal description. So if you wanted to do this by hand, you do have the means to do that. And so ends your session on using the statistical intervals.